Thanks, Vanessa. And I know in September last year when we were discussing about the report, we were very optimistic about hosting you today in our EY offices. We had to unfortunately cancel. So 2023, that's the year we'll be back in more London.
Yes, fantastic.
And we want to echo your sentiments as well. So a big thank you for all of you to making the time to complete this review of your network. We received insights from representatives of 89 organisations. Farah, Charlotte and I were really delighted to partner with Vanessa and Gender Networks for the 4th year now on this annual Gender Network survey. And while last year's survey was focused on the response of our member networks to COVID-19 and the unique challenges this posed, this year's survey builds on those insights and captures the ongoing challenges of running events in a hybrid working environment. So let's take a look into what we uncovered. Thank you. There's a lot of stats here, so I'm just going to talk through some of the key points whilst you have a read through. And firstly, looking at the makeup and structure of our networks, what is really wonderful to see is that on the whole, we've increased not only in the size of membership, but also in global reach. Where in 2020 we had an even split in terms of size of networks with membership, which fell into either the 1,000+ or those with 100 to 250 members. Now over a third of all network surveys have more than 1,000 members. On budgets in 2020, we saw that where budgets were not remaining constant from one year to the next, they were decreasing. And in contrast with this, in 2021, although 2/3 of budgets remain constant in comparison with 2020, most of the remaining third actually received an increase in budget. Close to a third of networks have a budget of between 5,000 and 15,000, whereby in 2020 this was lower. The average amount of spend was in the 1 to 5K mark. And looking at network events in 2021, we saw a rise in teaming and partnering with other internal networks, with now just under half of all networks choosing to look externally for speakers, which is down 13% on 2020. So in summary, we've more members, we're expanding our reach outside of the UK, and we've tapped into more of our internal talent for events. And talking of events, next up, we'll take a look at the responses around events being held and the virtual network. Overall, the feedback on virtual events from members has been 98% positive. It enables more participation, it's more cost effective, easier to choose times to host events. We're not at the mercy of a room booking, and you can host on subjects that are quite topical in a timely way as well. A selection of these focus topics are at the bottom of the slide. However, it's also recognised this Zoom fatigue is a huge factor I'm sure we can all relate to, and with the increase in events comes a competition or from other events and other networks too, and the networking piece poses a bit more of a challenge to do virtually. We've got some ideas that have come in from all of you about ways you've been tackling that and coming up with creative work of networking. Saying that, networks are increasing the number of events they're hosting, so with an average of 5 to 10 events held across the year. Hosting events virtually provided a huge opportunity to build and expand our networks, and saw an 87% increase in attendance. With that increase, overall, there's been a 61% increase in male attendance at virtual events held this year, and Charlotte will go into more details on the male engagement slide shortly. Next up, we wanted to share where areas of focus for events have evolved and how the networks have been creative in their sessions, providing networking opportunities. So we've got some of the ideas from you all on the next slide. Looking at how topics covered in events have changed, there's much more of a focus on well-being and mental health, recognizing and acknowledging that we're going through the shared experiences, but in very different ways. And this has really provided much more interactivity and openness in terms of the discussions we've been having between members in a safe space. And in terms of being innovative, I'm really interested to hear more how these have all gone actually and worked in practice, and maybe we can chat a bit more in the breakouts later. But you set up coffee chats, speed mentoring sessions, run podcasts, really creative ways to engage with your members. Now over to Charlotte, who will share the findings on male engagement and the role of network co-chairs.
Lovely, thank you, Marie, and thank you for having me here today, everyone. I'm a new co-chair to the EY Women's Network, so it's lovely to meet you all virtually today, and I'm very much looking forward to next year when we can all be in person. So if I move on now to male engagement, if we can stick on, yes, perfect. So it's really pleasing to see that 55% of members have seen more men involved this year when compared to last. This is really encouraging, and with 68% of members stating that men form part of their leadership committee as well. Now, male participation on the whole appears to be as allies or attending meetings, with most actively over 90% of members seeing this in their network activity. A smaller proportion appear to help to run events or develop programmes, or actively run the network and help to recruit members. So you could get a sense from this that men appear to be having a sort of fairly passive role in their assistant participation to date. I mean, it's great that we are sort of increasing the man engagement, absolutely, but I do think that there's more that we can all do. And some of the reasons why men don't appear to get involved that have been provided in the survey results. They view the networks as being for women only, and they're unsure whether they're invited, and they think that the network is there only to support women. And so that leads us on to whether gender networks have changed their names to be gender neutral or not. So I think 50% have changed the name, with about 50% including women in their title currently. And only 6% are planning to change the name going forwards. Now, the results show that of 28% of networks who have changed their name, they have seen a positive increase in male engagement. So this is great, but I don't think it's definitive proof that having a gender neutral name actually does increase male engagement across the board. As I'm sure we're all aware, there are lots of factors that drive male engagement, network name being one of them, absolutely, but I'm sure there's lots more that we can discuss as part of the breakout sessions. We'll move now on to the final topic of the network co-chair role. So in the results, it's clear that sort of a majority of the members do have a defined set of roles and responsibilities for co-chairs and job descriptions documented, with 55% of members having these in place. And it's great to see that 100% of networks this year, compared to I think about 96% in previous years, are actually reaching out to lots of different parts of the business and building relationships, with most of those being positive relationships being built are based on the regular interactions with D&I teams, the corporate communications teams, training, development, talent, branding, and even the executive board. All of those members felt on the whole were very positive experiences. It's also great to see that 80% of member networks are mentioned in any external reporting that organisations are making, so such as annual reports, corporate social responsibility statements, and other transparency reports. And that really does hopefully reflect the fantastic work that each of the members are doing, and that this is being recognised externally to try and address gender parity. Now, top responses when asked to define what gender parity is in your organisation, I think lots of us can sort of think about these ourselves. So getting more women into executive roles, building teams with more balanced gender, having gender balanced executive teams, more men taking paternity leave. I think we are seeing that on the uplift, but I think there's more to be done, and equal pay, and I know that was touched on earlier. And then finally, some of the things that are included in the BACA report in terms of recommendations to help grow the power of networking, but some of the things that came up, I'll just talk about 3 now. So extending the scope of topics and speakers. I know that our own network at EY, we've really looked at that and tried to address it based on our member feedback, and I think has really helped us during the last sort of 12, 18 months. Wider promotion of network activities and events across organisations, so not just going down the normal channels, trying to really get those comms out and getting sponsorship from senior leadership, and also focusing on intersectionality issues. Yeah, trying to work, as Marie said earlier, with other networks within the organisation, so across D&I issues. But the report made fantastic reading. Actually, it's the first time that I've really been involved, but yeah, excellent reading, and I'm really looking forward to the discussions that we can have over the next remainder of this session. So thank you. I think I hand back to Vanessa now.
Thank you, and thank you, EY, for supporting us. As you say, it's the 4th year we've done this survey, and it's such a value add to the membership, because for you guys, you can take some of this stuff back, especially around budgets and things like that, to your senior stakeholders and say, look, you know, for those of you who are going, oh God, I'd love £5,000 as a budget, you know, take the report, show it. It's, as I say, it's done by EY, show it to your senior stakeholders and say, you know, we need more money than that. If you think, you know, sometimes, I know we don't necessarily have internal catering costs at the minute, but by the time you've paid for a speaker, internal catering,
Sorry,
I don't know that it is, but they need to go on mute. But that budget's kind of gone. So there was so much that kind of came out of the survey, and obviously I've seen all the previous years, which you guys have got access to as well, and there's been significant improvement in terms of what you're doing, and you will see that when you get the report tomorrow. You'll see in my forward is an absolute congratulations to all of you. From my perspective, watching your activities over the pandemic, how you sprung into action, your adaptability, your ability to be agile, you know, the topics and the boundaries that you pushed as networks can only be applauded. So if no one else is saying thank you to you, I am, because I see the impact that you've all had. So, you know, absolute kudos to you. And hopefully this survey kind of helped you to shift the needle a little more as well.